Hello guys, now we shall be discussing about another life cycle that will be Fasciola Buski, right, or Buski or whatever it is. So that would be Fasciola Buski as I pronounce. So that would be your Fasciola Buski. Okay, so this is Fasciola Buski. Now let us recap and revise the previous life cycles. What is the definitive host, primary, secondary, as well as what is the infective form. Okay, so we shall be looking at what will be the definitive host, what will be the definitive host, what will be the primary intermediate host, and we shall be discussing the secondary intermediate host, as well as the infective form, okay. Right, now when it comes to the definitive host, the first important thing we discussed in the previous lecture, that was Paragonymous westermanni, right? The second we have discussed was Clonorchis. I'm not writing the complete names. And the third one we have discussed was Fasciola hepatica. And now we shall be discussing Fasciola Buski. Right, now what will be the definitive host? Yeah, the definitive host in case of Paragonymous, definitive host here will be human. The second one also will be the human. The third one will be the human again. But what is another thing other than the human? That is cow as well as sheep, right? So the other thing we discussed was cow and sheep. So you call it as a sheep fluke, right? Now here also it will be in Fasciola Buski, it will be human. Now apart from this, there is also another host, definitive host, that is pig. Okay. Now when it comes to the primary intermediate, it will be snail. Everywhere it will be just snail. Okay. Now when it comes to the secondary intermediate host, it would be what? Yes, in the first thing, the secondary intermediate host was the crab. Okay. Next it was the fish, the freshwater fish. Thirdly, in hepatica, it was the plant, right? The freshwater plant. And finally, in Fasciola Buski, here also it would be freshwater plant. And obviously the infective form in all of them, again the same, that will be Metacercaria. Okay. Now let us look at the life cycle now. Coming to the life cycle, guys, so obviously again let me draw the freshwater plant over here. So let us say that this is your freshwater plant. This is not a tree, this is a plant. Okay, so this would be a freshwater plant. Yeah, so this would be a plant, freshwater plant. Let me write it down. This would be a fresh water plant. Okay. Now here in this freshwater plant, sitting on this freshwater plant, you have got a infective form that is called as Metacercaria larva. Okay. You have got a larva on this. I told you that would be the Metacercaria larva. So this is the Metacercaria larva. This is the Metacercaria larva like this. Okay. Now this metacercarial larva, let me write it down, this would be what? Metacercarial larva. Now this metacercarial larva will enter into the humans. Okay, this metacercarial larva, where it is going to enter, guys? This metacercarial larva will enter into the humans. Now once this metacercarial larva is ingested, it would go all the way down into your stomach, and from there the intestine. Okay, and after that, I'm just drawing it out like this, right? So I have not drawn the complete intestine anyways. So right, so what is going to happen is that this metacercaria, okay, this metacercaria, once you ingest it, this metacercaria is going to enter right away it is going to enter into your stomach. So this would be your metacercaria, and obviously metacercaria is having a cyst around it. Okay, now from here the metacercaria will enter into your duodenum. Now in the duodenum, what did I tell you? Excistation happens. I mean, the cyst wall breaks out and the larva comes out. So this is what is going to happen in the duodenum. In the duodenum, the cyst wall is broken. Now only the larva is out. Okay, now another important thing is that this larva comes down all the way, enters into your intestine, and this larva inside the intestine, it is going to convert into an adult worm. Inside the intestine, this larva will convert into an adult worm. Okay, so what is this which I have drawn here? This is your adult worm. Adult worm. Now this adult worm will release eggs. So obviously the eggs which are released here are unembryonated eggs. Okay, so this adult worm is going to release some eggs, and these eggs are called as unembryonated eggs. So these are the unembryonated eggs. Now these unembryonated eggs will turn to an embryonated eggs. These unembryonated eggs, like this, right? So these unembryonated eggs are turning to embryonated eggs. See, they have an embryo inside. They are turning to embryonated eggs. Okay, so what has happened? These are unembryonated eggs. Unembryonated eggs. So these unembryonated eggs are turning into embryonated eggs. Now once these embryonated eggs are formed, what will happen to the patient? Now look here, it is not about the patient. Obviously these embryonated eggs, they will hatch. What will happen now? The second stage is the embryonated eggs will hatch. So once these embryonated eggs will hatch, what is out of these embryonated eggs, guys? What is out? These are called as miracidia. So what has happened? Miracidia will hatch out of these embryonated eggs. Now again the same, these miracidia, like previous life cycles, all we have discussed, that miracidia will enter into the snail. Now once it enters into the snail, obviously what should happen? So let us say this is your snail over here. Okay, right. So once what will happen is that these miracidia will enter inside the snail. Now once it enters inside the snail, obviously it will undergo 3 stages. I told you. What are those 3 stages? MSRC. What does MSRC stand for? One is miracidium, one is miracidia. Miracidia inside the snail, it will convert into sporocyst, right? And sporocyst will later convert into radia, and radia will convert into cercaria. Cercaria, right? Now this cercaria, what has been released from this snail, this cercaria will again go back, will swim inside the fresh water, and it will land on the freshwater plant, and then this cercaria is enveloped by a cyst. So once cercaria is enveloped by a cyst, that you call it as metacercaria, right? Now this cercaria, what will happen is that this cercaria would go back onto the freshwater plant, and what will happen is that a cyst develops on that, and that is called as metacercaria. So now what is happening? Encystation, right? So encystation. So where is excistation? Where did excistation happen? Excistation happened in the duodenum. And where is encystation happening? Encystation is happening on the freshwater plant, right? So obviously the metacercaria, the another host where it will enter is the pig. That is a pig. Now obviously the pig is gonna release these unembryonated eggs and the cycle repeats. Okay, so this is a very important thing. And let me look for the CDC life cycle. It is obviously the same. I think you can look from this. The only difference between the previous life cycle, that is Fasciola hepatica and Fasciola buski, the only difference is that there it was cow and sheep. Here it is pig. This is one difference. Second thing is that there the adult worms are formed in the liver, right? Here the adult worms are formed in the small intestine. So this is the only difference, guys. There is nothing difference in this life cycle. The life cycle is nothing different from the previous one. The only two differences are, one is in the host, that is there it was cow and sheep, and here it is pig, and there it was the adult worms are formed in the liver, where here the adult worms are formed in the intestine. So this is the only two difference points which you need to know regarding this Fasciola buski, right? So and another important thing is that in all these trematodes, the eggs, whatever you see, the embryonated eggs, right? These eggs have a lid on the top, right? So this is an egg, for example. This is an egg, for example. The egg is having a lid on the top like this. Okay, so this lid on the top of the egg, this is called as operculated egg, right? So what do you mean by operculated egg? Eggs which have a lid on the top are called as operculated eggs. So in all of them, either it might be Fasciola hepatica, Fasciola buski, and even we have discussed Paragonomus westermani and Clonorchis. So in all of them, the eggs, when you put them under the microscope and look, they have an operculum at the top. That is the reason why they are called as operculated eggs, right? So this is all you need to know regarding this Fasciola buski. Thank you so much for watching my video. Goodbye.